The Wright brothers physically twisted the wings of their airplane during flight to make it controllable. Thankfully, flight controls have evolved a lot over the past 100 years. And today we use a system of separate movable flight controls that's much more efficient and safe. The flight controls that we know of today can be broken down into two categories: primary flight controls, which are your ailerons, elevator, and your rudder, and secondary flight controls, which are your flaps, trim, spoilers, leading edge devices, and so on. First, let's talk about the ailerons. The ailerons are located on the most outboard section of the wing, and they're connected to the yoke or the control stick inside the cockpit by cables or push rods. They control the roll of the airplane by deflecting air either up or down, deflecting air in such a way that it rolls the airplane to the right. When we turn the yoke to the left, the right aileron moves down, pushing more air down, and the left aileron moves up, pushing air upwards, thus causing the aircraft to roll to the left. The next flight control that we'll talk about is the elevator. No, not that kind of elevator. We're talking about this movable surface on the back of the horizontal stabilizer. Like the ailerons, cables or push rods connect the elevator to the control yoke or control stick inside the cockpit. The elevator controls the pitch of the airplane in much the same way that the ailerons control the roll of the airplane, by deflecting air up or down, causing the aircraft to pitch up or down. When we push the yoke forward, the elevator deflects downward, pushing the tail up and causing the nose of the airplane to point down. When we pull the yoke or the control stick back toward us, the elevator deflects upward, pushing air upward and pushing the tail down. This causes the nose of the airplane to point up. Next up, let's talk about the rudder. Now, when someone mentions rudder, we typically think of the one on a boat. And this is basically the same concept, except we're working with air instead of water. After all, air is technically a fluid and acts in very similar ways to water. The rudder is a movable surface on the back of the vertical stabilizer. And just like the other flight controls, it's connected to controls inside the cockpit by cables or push rods. However, in this time, those cables and those push rods don't connect to the yoke or the control stick. They actually connect to pedals that you'll control with your feet. Controlling the yaw of the airplane with your feet does take quite a bit of getting used to, but the general idea is that you push your foot in the direction that you want to turn the airplane. So pushing on the right rudder pedal will deflect the rudder to the right, pushing the tail to the left and the nose of the airplane to the right. Vice versa, if you push on the left rudder pedal, the rudder will deflect to the left and the tail of the airplane will go to the right, causing the nose of the airplane to turn to the left. Now, one thing to keep in mind with the rudder and all the other flight controls is that their effectiveness increases with speed. So that means that when you're going slow, it's going to take larger control inputs to get the same amount of reaction from the airplane. You can experience this type of phenomenon when you're traveling in a car down the highway and you stick your hand out the window. When you're going 80 miles an hour, a tiny bit of movement of your hand creates a large change in force, which you can really feel. When you're going down the road slowly and you stick your hand out the window, you're not going to experience as much force exerted on your hand from those same movements. It makes sense, right? Well, this is something that you'll get used to as you fly the airplane more and more, and you'll get a feel for how much control input in order to get the reaction that you want from the airplane at different speeds. Again, these are the primary flight controls that we'll use during flight: the ailerons, the elevator, and the rudder. They're not the only flight controls, but they are the main ones that we use during flight. Let us know what questions you have in the comments below about aircraft systems, and I'll do my best to answer them. If you're an aspiring pilot who loves learning as much as you possibly can about aviation, be sure to subscribe to my channel and click the notification bell so that you keep getting content like this. I'll see you in the next video.